Hi, my name's Louise and today we're going to talk about induction dosing within the Dawn AC system. Now, inducing a patient onto warfarin is a high risk activity, so the Dawn software provides induction dosing guidelines based on published scientific papers. We don't recommend using the maintenance module within Dawn AC for dosing induction patients. The reason being is that the maintenance algorithm assumes that the patient is on a stable maintenance dose. So we don't want Dawn using that algorithm to suggest a dose for the patient while they're being induced. There's also the risk that an induction patient might not be picked up necessarily, so a user might not notice that the patient is an induction one. So for that reason, we have the induction module, which is specifically designed for tracking and dosing patients that are being loaded onto warfarin. So the induction module is used to start or restart a patient on warfarin, and it tries to determine an appropriate maintenance dose using the established protocols within the system, or potentially your own custom protocols as well, so we can put in your own induction algorithms. So with the induction module, we can start a patient on induction therapy within their treatment plan. And I'm going to show you a patient I've got on screen now. I'm going to go into their treatment plan and I'm going to start them on induction therapy. So this is the treatment plan screen with all of our various treatment plan details. I have some information entered in here already, such as a diagnosis, duration type. I've also got start date here as well. Just a note, the start date has to be day 1, so this has to be the first day of the induction. And over here on the top right, this is where we can choose our AC therapy. So at the moment it's defaulted to maintenance, but I'm actually going to choose the induction option. From there, I'm then going to choose the dosing regime for the patient. Now, the patient does need to be on a daily dosing regime for this. And then I'm going to choose the induction algorithm from the drop-down menu. Now, these are the standard algorithms we have within the database already. Like I say, there is potential to add in your own custom algorithms in there as well, but I'm just going to choose a standard one for the moment. And then once I've entered the information I need to, I'm simply going to choose the activate option here. Okay. And once I come out of that patient treatment plan screen and go back to the main patient screen, what I can now see is the fact the patient is an induction patient is actually highlighted in red up at the top left. Now, the last thing I need to do before I start dosing the patient is give them a next appointment date. So like I say, because today is effectively day 1 when I'm going to take the first INR, I'm going to choose today as that next appointment date. Once you've actually added the patient onto induction, the screens and the displays look very much like the maintenance module, in that when we put in an INR result, Dawn will go away, it will find the appropriate induction algorithm rule, and it'll use that to apply the appropriate dose of warfarin and the next test as well. During induction therapy, most protocols do suggest testing at intervals of less than a week. So Dawn is able to automatically customise the instruction, so it starts on the correct day and it only includes the days until the planned next test, so it will show you it quite clearly there. I'm going to put in the first INR for the moment, so let's put in a 1.2. And I do get a warning because the INR is low, which is true, so if I'm going to OK that, I'm going to just accept that warning. And then from there, Dawn's going to give me my suggested dose of warfarin and next test. So I can see it's 5 milligrams and then come back in 4 days' time, and that's in line with the TATE algorithm that I have the patient on at the moment. Now, if you do deviate from the algorithm rules when you're dosing these patients, either by overwriting the dose or changing the next test, then Dawn will force you to manually dose the patient from then on. But for this one, I will go with it and accept that dose. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to imagine that we are on the 17th. I'm just going to kind of carry on from here just to show you. I'll put in a slightly higher INR result now. Again, obviously I get a warning because this isn't today, but we'll just again go with that. And again, I've got my dose as found by the TATE rules. I've got my 4 milligrams daily, back in 3 days as well. So I'm going to acknowledge that, I'm going to accept that particular dose as well, and you can see it looks very much like the maintenance module. So Dawn is making these suggestions for me based on the algorithm rules. So let's put in another INR now. Okay. Now, I've come to effectively what is day 8 in this algorithm. So I've got my INR in there, my dose and my next test, and I can see over to the right here, it's actually saying review for transfer to maintenance therapy. Now what that means is when I click on accept dose at this point, I'm going to get a transfer screen pop up. So if I accept dose on this one now, what I get is this induction to maintenance transfer screen. Now this screen gives an overview of the induction settings used, and it also gives a stability check between the current and last dose. So at this point we really need to check the stability figures carefully. So if we have a look first of all up at the top, I can see the stability check, I can see the last dose, and the last dose but one is the same. I can see my induction settings over here on the right. So the patient's been on the TATE algorithm, we're on day 8. I've had 3 tests, and I can have a look at the dosing regime. Now, should I choose to transfer the patient to maintenance dosing at this point, and I'm happy to change them to maintenance therapy, so Dawn will then start using the maintenance algorithm to start suggesting doses for the patient, then what I firstly need to do is just take a look at these settings here, because what we've got is the dosing regime we chose initially for the patient for induction. Potentially you may have put the patient on a specific induction regime. You can at this stage change the dosing regime if you want to put them on something else. So if they're taking a certain strength of tablets, or you wanted to give them a weekly regime, for example, you could choose a different regime at this point. You could also change their target range at this stage as well. We've also got things like their max % dose change, which again we can change at this point, and also their maximum interval in days between tests. Now, like I say, if I'm happy and I want to move the patient onto maintenance dosing, I simply need to click on transfer. We do have the option, however, on the bottom right of choosing cancel. So if this patient hasn't reached a stable maintenance dose and you want to keep them on induction therapy for the moment, we can click on cancel. And then is the patient will remain on induction therapy, but you'll be manually dosing the patient because we've reached the end of the algorithm rules. We're on day 8 for the TATE algorithm. So there are no more induction rules left as such, but you can manually dose the patient until you're happy that the patient has reached a stable maintenance dose. You can then go back into the treatment plan and transfer them to maintenance therapy manually. So I'm happy this patient is now reached stable maintenance dose. I'm going to hit the transfer option now. And what you can see is I get a pop-up message saying the patient has been transferred to maintenance. And if I have a look over on the left, the red induction flag has gone, so I can see the patient's now on maintenance. And if I carry on and enter in an INR result for that particular day, the patient is now on maintenance therapy. So when Dawn can, it will suggest a dose and a next test for them. For more information on the induction algorithm and how we can help your clinic, please contact us.